Welcome to today's deep dive. We are taking one of pop culture's most famous, enduring myths and throwing it straight under the microscope of hard data. Today, we're looking past the ghost stories, the glowing red maps, and the spooky rumors to uncover what is actually happening in the waters between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. If you've ever been totally captivated by stories of vanishing ships or planes just dissolving into thin air, you're in the right place. We're going to break down the facts, step by step, and see where the evidence actually leads when we strip away the sensationalism.
To really understand this legend, we've got to start with the incident that truly put it on the map. Picture it. It's 1945. 5 U.S. Navy bombers, collectively known as Flight 19, take off on a totally routine training mission over the Atlantic. But then, the weather suddenly shifts, navigation fails, and after some incredibly tense, disoriented radio transmissions, they just vanish, and the massive rescue plane sent out to search for them, also gone. Now, it is absolutely crucial to remember this happened way before modern satellite navigation, GPS, and today's hyper-accurate weather forecasting. But still, 5 aircraft and a rescue plane literally gone without a trace. It sounds like the perfect, terrifying mystery, doesn't it?
Okay, let's dive into this, because this is exactly where we have to hit the brakes and ask a fundamental question. Is the ocean actually behaving strangely, or is something else entirely at play here? Look, whenever we hear these extraordinary stories, our minds naturally jump straight to the supernatural, right? Sea monsters, alien abductions, hidden underwater portals, you name it. But here's the thing. Extraordinary events do not automatically require supernatural explanations. To figure this out, we need to swap our imagination for a calculator and a compass and look closely at the hard data, the environmental reality, and the actual recorded history of the region. Let's kick things off with a surprisingly simple fact. There is absolutely no universally accepted official boundary for the Bermuda Triangle. None whatsoever. The U.S. Board on Geographic Names doesn't even recognize it as a real region. If you look at the magazines, books, and TV shows that have built up this legend over the decades, the exact shape of the triangle is constantly changing. Some versions stretch it way out east toward the Azores, while others shrink it down to this tiny, hyper-specific zone. Why does this matter? Well, if you can't even clearly define the area, how can you possibly calculate if it has an unusually high accident rate? The truth is, the Bermuda Triangle wasn't discovered by science, it was quite literally drawn into existence by creative storytellers and dramatic retellings.
And this brilliantly illustrates the single most overlooked fact in all of Bermuda Triangle lore. Think about a quiet country road that maybe sees 100 cars a day. If there's an accident there, it's pretty unusual. Now imagine a massive, heavily trafficked interstate highway carrying tens of thousands of cars every single day. Even if that highway is completely normal, perfectly paved, and well lit, accidents are inevitably going to happen just because of the sheer mathematical volume of traffic. Some of those accidents will be serious, and statistically, a handful will be incredibly bizarre. But if someone only ever collected stories about those bizarre crashes and completely ignored the millions of safe trips, that highway would start to look cursed really fast.
The reality is, the Bermuda Triangle sits in one of the absolute busiest parts of the entire Atlantic Ocean. Historically, it's been this massive crossroads connecting the eastern United States with the Caribbean, Central America, and major shipping routes heading over to Europe. When we actually compare the enormous daily volume of ships and commercial planes to the number of unexplained disappearances, a stark reality emerges. The disappearances are incredibly rare. It all comes down to basic probability. More traffic naturally means more opportunities for accidents. So before we ask what supernatural force is dragging ships under, we have to ask a statistical question. How unusual is this accident rate compared to the literal millions of vessels safely passing through these waters every single year? So, the crucial point is that we don't need to invent magnetic anomalies or underwater vortexes to find danger here. Let's pivot for a second and look up. What if the real threat isn't hiding deep beneath the waves, but is actually crashing down from the sky? Turns out, bad weather is a whole lot more common than alien tractor beams. The environment in this specific region is incredibly volatile, offering plenty of perfectly grounded scientific ways to explain missing vessels. Once we start looking at the actual meteorology of the area, this whole mystery begins to dissolve incredibly fast.
The Western Atlantic is an absolute powerhouse for severe weather. We're talking about a region historically prone to devastating hurricanes that can absolutely obliterate vessels. But even outside of hurricane season, this area experiences sudden, fierce thunderstorms. These pop-up microstorms can whip up hurricane-force winds, blinding rain, and massive, ship-breaking rogue waves with almost zero warning. We're talking waves recorded as high as 80 to 100 feet. If a small boat or a mid-century aircraft gets caught in one of these sudden localized events, the results can be catastrophic before they even have a second to radio for help. A storm absolutely does not need to be supernatural to be deadly.
And then we have the ocean itself, specifically the Gulf Stream. This is a massive, incredibly powerful, fast-moving ocean current cutting right through the heart of the region. If a plane crashes or a boat capsizes, the Gulf Stream acts like a giant aquatic conveyor belt. It can sweep floating debris, life jackets, and wreckage miles away from the original accident site in a matter of hours. Add thousands of feet of deep, dark, open ocean to the mix, and you've got an unforgiving environment that quickly and efficiently erases evidence. Naturally, when search teams arrive and find no wreckage, no oil slicks, and zero physical clues, human beings fill those terrifying empty gaps with wild, speculative theories.
This brings us to a fundamental psychological concept that keeps this myth alive. And honestly, this is where it all clicks into place. Selection bias. This is what happens when we hyper-focus on the unusual, dramatic cases and completely forget about the vast majority of normal, everyday occurrences. We remember that one time something really weird happened, and we completely forget the 10,000 times everything went exactly as planned. The endearing mystery of the Bermuda Triangle actually tells us very little about strange forces in the ocean and a whole lot more about how the human brain struggles to process uncertainty, probability, and random patterns.
Let's use a quick analogy. Imagine flipping a perfectly normal coin 1,000 times. You'd expect roughly a 50-50 mix of heads and tails, right? But what if someone came up to you and only showed you a snapshot of a moment where that coin landed on heads 15 times in a row? If you only looked at that one bizarre streak and deliberately ignored the other 985 flips, you might falsely conclude that the coin is totally rigged or fundamentally defective. But the math didn't change and the physics didn't change. The only thing that changed was the way the data was selected and presented to you. Now, what's really interesting about this comparison is how perfectly it translates to the real world. Every single day, massive cargo ships, luxury cruise liners, and hundreds of commercial flights cross this exact region safely. But a ship arriving safely and on time, that doesn't make the evening news. Thousands of successful journeys completely disappear from the historical record because, let's face it, normal, safe completion is boring. But when one ship tragically sinks in a storm, it gets sensationalized with flashing news tickers, dramatic documentaries, and bold headlines. The few disasters become famous precisely because they are rare, creating an extremely powerful illusion of a cursed pattern. When science investigates these incidents, it doesn't ask what is the most exciting or strangest explanation. It asks what explanation best fits the available evidence. And the real culprits here are a combination of extreme weather, complex navigation challenges, sudden mechanical failures, and tragic human error. These ordinary, scientifically understood factors become incredibly dangerous when they combine in an enormous, unforgiving open ocean environment, especially where there are often no witnesses and no immediate avenues for rescue. It's a chain of highly unfortunate yet completely natural events.
Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder. We know the region has no official boundary. We know it handles a staggering volume of daily traffic, and we know it's constantly battered by intense weather and powerful, fast-moving ocean currents. So, I pass the question to you. Is there really enough evidence to call the Bermuda Triangle genuinely mysterious? Or is this legendary curse mostly just a mirror reflecting our own human psychology and how we misinterpret rare events? I would love to hear your thoughts, so definitely share your answers in the comments below. And if you enjoyed breaking down this legend with hard facts and clear data, make sure to subscribe to Braincastle for more deep dives where we uncover the truth behind history's biggest mysteries. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next one.